is good to go. Alright, I tested everything and it seems to be working. Please let me know if I'm mistaken. Today I'm going to be working on my wedding dress. So for this build, I will be using a pattern only because I don't want to botch it, since this is a special occasion wear, if you will, and there is a deadline. So for this, you can see it. I think it's what over here is the reference picture. I went to Joann Fabrics and I searched their pattern department section only when the patterns are on sale. So I had options. There's this guy. They have it where it's short in the front and long in the back, or you can also do it where it's long in the front and short in the back. I don't know, there's just something about this pattern. I initially got it because I wanted to get all the patterns that I possibly could. I'm not ending up using that one. This one has the style of dress for the collar line that we are trying to achieve. However, it looks a little too boxy, almost like it is scrubs for a doctor or a nurse. So I'm going to set this pattern aside for now. However, I may use it and reference back to it when I go to make my own style of that neck collar. These were just two other patterns of long dresses that had trains on them. I'm not sure if you can see that, but they've got the pictures there that look like they had trains on them. I wanted to be more prepared. I didn't want to have to go back in case I needed something. So I will not be using these ones either. The two that I have set on are these guys. Now I want the dress to be one piece, and these are both top and bottoms. So one is the skirt, one is the top. I'm going to Mod Podge them and put them together. So here is, wish me the best of luck. Today we are going to be cutting out muslin. So again, before I even start cutting these patterns out of the brocade silk that we have, I wanted to mock it up, one, to make sure that it's the correct length and fitting size. So I'm just using a cheap muslin. It is, I think, $2.99 a yard. If you use your 50% off coupon and then like a 20% off on top of that, buy it when it's not on sale. I like it. It's see-through, it's cheap. They do make the same people that make your interfacing, they do make a pattern, specific pattern fabric, but I find out that it's not wide enough. So when we do a dress like this, I don't want to have to Frankenstein a bunch of pieces together. I want to try to make this as painless as possible, because usually when you're making your patterns, that's the most painstakingly steps. I use a Sharpie to draw any extras on here. You'll notice too that when I cut the patterns off of the folded out piece, I just left them choppy. I don't need to refine them, especially if I'm going to be laying them out on fabric and then cutting them out again. I might also just make that one clean cut instead of trying to waste time making two clean cuts. I am doing two of the tops just because I'm not sure which one I want to stick with at the end. So if I cut them all out now, then I won't have to come back to this step later, and I can just tack it up accordingly. This fabric is folded right now, so anything that I lay down I'll be getting two of. So for this waistband, I'm cutting it on a fold. I'm actually only going to be getting one waistband and I need two, so this is the one pattern that I will have to double down on later. These pieces, folding this on a seam, one piece for this. Here's the back, I'm cutting two for the back. This is the alternate back, so I'm just going to be pinning these down. Just working on my wedding dress. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not worrying about if I get on the selvage a little bit. Again, this is just a mock-up to kind of give me an idea and to work out any of the kinks that could arise. I use long straight pins that have the really big, I call them nubs or heads. That way when I drop them on the floor, they're a little easier to find. I tend to put more pins into my pattern than needed, only because I'm not ironing this out right now. I know, shame on me. But again, with this just being a mock-up, I'm just going as quick as possible. 20 days until the ordered fabric arrives. So we want to make sure that within those 20 days, one, I get this done, but I've got other events that I have to do along the way. This piece will not fit here. Move some things around. I bought so much muslin that I just rolled it up. Because we don't have to worry about going with the grain with this fabric, I can flip-flop these pieces every which way. The container that I use for a lot of my craft supplies are the Tupperware, or Rubbermaid, I guess is the actual name brand. I picked up a box of them during the Thanksgiving sales, the day after Thanksgiving sale. They're really nice because they've got the stacking lids. So I'm just smoothing the pattern paper out as I go along, trying to make sure that I put the pin within. I'm cutting out a size 12. I know that sounds extreme. Pattern sizes are usually different than real. Like I'm shopping in the mall and this is my size. So don't ever feel like you are cutting out too large of a pattern for yourself. Again, you can always take it in. Don't just assume that said pattern is going to fit you. I don't do too many mock-ups. But again, fancy fabric calls for fancy steps. Now some of these pieces are rather large, so I may have to snip. Let's see, I think there's a waistband somewhere. So here, these are the large skirt pieces, you can tell now. Pattern sizes are starting to get significantly larger. drape some of them on the back of my chair so I don't have to refold them. This is a small, manageable one to begin with. What is this? The side fronts, back side, back. Does this one get cut on a fold? It's always important to read your directions. Yeah, so this one says center fold. So depending, yeah, let's see here. Can we get that in center fold? Oh, we can, just. Fantastic. I like it when things work out nicely. We've done a really good job kind of Tetrising from here on. So I'm confident that I'm just going to snip this to get it out of the way. So I'm actually cutting along the pattern because, again, why have to come back to it? You don't ever want to pull on your pattern as it's stuck to the fabric because you'll end up ripping it. So just kind of loosely let it drape and cut it away. Most patterns from the store have the seam allowance already figured into them. So you don't need to take that into account unless it specifically states otherwise. I know when I was younger I used to try to add the seam allowance into the pattern pieces and it never worked out well. Definitely self-taught. And again, I'm just kind of snipping it down this line here to make them into smaller, more manageable pieces. Now I'm just going to pull this off to the side. I'm not a heathen, so as I roll it out, I am smoothing out the fabric. Now this one here says again, center fold, so that is vitally important. Now, I'm not worried about all this empty space because I will be able to reuse this fabric for other projects in the future. So it may seem like I'm wasting a lot, but remember I need it on the center fold. And again, waste not, want not, we'll use this for something else. There's a little more slack, I can always roll it up with that guy down there. If I take my time laying my patterns out correctly now, marking everything, I'll have less problems down the line. I've realized that taking my time makes things go a lot smoother. So again, I am laying out patterns for my wedding dress for those of you that are just popping in. Typically I craft my own patterns, but again, a wedding dress is just one of those attires you can't afford to have an oops moment with. clean the crap out of it. Wanting to make sure that my fabric's not bunched up and being pulled in a weird way underneath my pattern. And again, I'm just snipping it away to get it out of the way. And I'm actually going to cut up it right now too. Because I'm cutting through paper and fabric, I have my mixed media scissors going to work right now. I am a very big stickler about my fabric scissors, and the fabric scissors only cut fabric. So even though there is this small, minuscule amount of tissue paper, I can't have any of it. I cut little triangles going outward for the marks of where patterns meet. Pattern pieces, rather. Voila. And again, I'll just fold this guy up. Put him out of the way for now. For this one, Twitch stream, because there's so much moving around, let me get this chair out of the way. It made sense to do widescreen for this, so I'm sorry. Sometimes you might not see my face, but you guys are here, I'm guessing, to see what I'm doing, not just me. And this here is just a PVC tube that I rolled this fabric up in. This is another on the fold. This is the back, so as you can see, it's a little longer. Now, a part of me thinks that I want to make the back piece even longer. I'll have to do that later though, because that's not what this is. So just lining it up again and sticking it with some pins. going to pin this top here, that way it doesn't slink down on me. Yeah, so here it even says written, it has a 5/8 inch hem allowance, which is a pretty substantial hem allowance. It's a little more than ½ an inch. That just means that you got to make sure you iron down your seams. Another reason I'm not trying to sandwich too many of these pieces together, or like putting pieces in the voids, is I want to see, because the fabric I'm ordering, or I have ordered for this, does have a grain to it. So I don't want to shortchange ourselves if we're going to need more. Because you want everything to look uniformal. Like this, we're off a little bit, so now I've got to go and adjust things. Some of my pins have so much glue left on them from previous projects, it's hard to poke them through the fabric. So again, I'm just going to cut this one, the pins out the way. now we've got a couple more pieces. What do we got? Oh, we got the big guys. So I need to cut 2 of each of these. They don't need to be cut on a fold. However, this one is massive. And I'll need to open the fabric up for it. What is this? The side front. Interesting. What about this one? Side back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this end off, because as you just saw, they won't fit on here. Get a drink. So what I have to do now is open this fabric completely up. Which means setting up the system. How long is 1? I'm trying to position it so I can fold it out. Because I need multiple pieces of them. Now the like downside is we're dealing with pieces of fabric wider than my table. So I need 2 of these. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll out more now. So I can fit these 2 together. this should do it. I may even put this one upside down, depending on things. Into the void. Yay! So then it'll all fit. Okay. Let's pin the top one down. I'm going to tuck it in a little closer to the salvage line. I'm going to actually use my cell phone to help hold some of this guy down. Just continuing to pin pattern pieces. Sometimes I'll pin out further, then come in and fill the empty space just so that I can pull the pattern a little bit and then go and tack them in closer. Once I get these last two pieces pinned, I gotta remember to take a picture. Can't have a build vlog without pictures. Move my pathetic weights out the way. Now I'm going to snip this off. Of it. I'll use this again when I go to mock up competition like outfits. So the next competition that Disfusional Studios is competing in is going to be Youmacon. So that'll come out for some Yobocon prep. I'm just going to slide this slightly off the table. I don't need that side that I already pinned. That, and it'll act as a counterweight to help pull my fabric as I go to put this guy on. So because I didn't clean up my patterns when I initially cut them out, some of it will be overlapping. Take care of that when I go to cut it. I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it. I'm not worried about it. I am not worried about it. It sounds better. Not a worry or concern of mine. I'm gonna pin the sections that are closest to my other pattern. That way they are not tempted to move. So here we are closest to the other pattern. I'm going to pin. Again, just smoothing out the pattern and pinning it down. Waste the most holding this thing back. Now I'm going to cut them apart from each other. Now that I've got all my pieces, now it's just gonna trim them all up now to actual size. I probably shouldn't be cutting a pattern on top of another pattern. Sounds like a bad idea entirely. Have to be careful when I'm cutting my patterns up because I've ruined many a scissor blades by accidentally trying to cut through a pin. Now, what I'm going to look for now is if there's any odd markings that I need to do on here. Any darting? Nope, I just needed my notches for my pattern pieces to fit to. So this piece is good to go. Some of you may be thinking that I'm throwing away some really big scraps, but I found out unless the scrap is truly big enough to be reused, all those tiny scraps just become a cumbersome pile that get neglected and pushed aside. So I'd rather get rid of them now, only keep what I can truly use. Now this piece was folded in half, so if I open it back up, this piece can be reused for something else big enough to keep. same thing, looking on this piece for any darts or notches. Nope, pretty straightforward. Cool. I'm not sure if I should be happy or concerned with it's smooth sailing so far. Alright, now I'm going to bring back the mat that had more pieces on them. Alright, and I can sit down for that. Cut both sides. This side is just a fold, so I'm not going to worry about cutting this. This one's good to go too. Yay. I'll check this one out. And that one's on a fold and it's good to go. Now I know that these guys need to be trimmed off of their pieces. So again, just need to make sure that I follow the size that I'm looking for. It looks like a storm is about to roll into Detroit right now, so if I lose power, I'm sorry. I will take some Aw, even Stitchy heard that thunder roll. So depending on how terrible of a storm it is, we may or may not have to stop this. Hopefully I can get all the patterns cut out with you guys today. Sometimes it's tricky to make sure that you follow your correct line when a bunch of them are all gathered together. And are there any marks for this guy? Mark the fold for the, they have it with buttons. I want to see if I can put a zipper in here. I'll see if I can put a zipper in. So we made our little marks. The reason I do a Sharpie, it doesn't rub off, and it's muslin, so you really don't care about it. One thing that's really nice and refreshing, because I haven't worked with patterns in a while, is that it literally has little notes all over it letting you know the seam allowance has changed, it's 3/8 of an inch. This is nice. Now remember, I needed another one of 5, so when I cut 5 out, and we'll do that right now, I need to cut another one of it out. You can hear the thunderstorm going on around us. Off on that one. This pattern shows that buttons are predominantly used. I don't want to use buttons. I have a zipper, a red zipper with gold toggle and teeth that I think I'm going to use instead. So I'm just trying to make some intricate cuts over here. And I don't think I checked the last couple. Yeah, so that one's got buttonhole marks. I don't want to put buttons on this. But I do see that this one's got... Oops. Where did I put that? Again, cool thing about muslin, your marks from one go right through to the other. Great for the fabric, bad for my table. trees are swaying outside like crazy. I'm almost done. I'm going to mark this guy and then cut out one more folded 5. I'm actually going to mark it on this because my poor table can only take so much. So make sure you mark the correct ones. For this one, it's got to be folded. Perfecto. Just line it up with the other guy. So I'm just pinning everybody together right now, just so I can keep all the patterns together. It's not because I'm lazy. For some reason, it's just easier to cut things standing up. All right. So we've got all of our pattern pieces cut out for our simplicity patterns. What are these pattern numbers? 8, 5, 9, 8. And the big doozy, which is the skirt, is going to be 8597, are the pattern numbers from Simplicity. They are the ones that we're going to be using to make the wedding dress base pattern with. Because it is storming outside, we are going to put a wrap on the Twitch stream for today. Tomorrow we're going to take all these pieces and start pinning them together and putting them on a dress form. That way we can really make the alterations that we need to trim up our patterns, which are now going to not be on the tissue paper, but will be on our muslin. So that's going to be yay! It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fun, and I hope to catch some of you guys at least tomorrow to see some of this build process with. Thank you for stopping by my stream. I greatly appreciate all the support, and till next time. Bye, guys.